Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn. Before we get started here, I just wanted to say that this Saturday, September 7th, I will be publishing a conversation I had with Brian McConaughey from Ruitenburg International, and it is an absolutely incredible conversation, probably the craziest conversation I've ever had in my life, recorded or not recorded. So I just wanted to say that up front here, and so you guys can mark that on your calendars and look out for that. It's a doozy. So anyways, enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn with me and Gary. This podcast is about, what is this podcast about, Gary? If someone asks you, what's the Briefcase in the Barn, what do you tell them?
I don't have an opinion. I always go by what other people say, what the listeners say, right? And it's different depending who you talk to,
But
right?
if someone asked you today, what is it about, what would you tell them?
Just me and you, just psychobabble. Just a lot of verbal diarrhea from Gary and Kyle. Sometimes very serious, sometimes entertaining.
Are we the experts in all this stuff that we talk about?
I'm not an expert in anything.
Exactly. I think that's important, though, because I got some feedback. I should get to the show sponsor, but first this. And I just want to be really clear that I'm not a subject matter expert in Christianity or in all these other things. I'm curious. I have a lot of questions. That's what makes me a good coach, but I'm not the answers guy. I'm just a regular dude, like everyone else.
Are we getting blowback or what?
No, but I think it's easy when you do a podcast or have any sort of social media presence
Or any kind of opinion.
that
Keeps everybody neutered. Everybody's scared now to say anything because they're worried they're going to get eviscerated on social media.
or that. But you can also give too good of an image, right? You can put the image that you get all your shit, that you got everything together.
Oh, we don't have that image, do we?
Well, I just want to make sure we don't.
We definitely don't.
I'm on the human being tour, as you say. I still got a lot of crap.
I am the least sanctified person I know. And I know a lot of people.
Yeah. What does sanctified mean?
Just means more Christ-like. Got a long ways to go.
Yeah. So anyways, show sponsor is Arbonne. Arbonne is a supplement that I use every morning, or almost every morning. I'm sure there's some days I skip, but I started on it about 2 years ago, way before this podcast. I never talked about it on the podcast, but my buddy Joey, his wife Donna was selling it, and I just thought I'd try it one time, so I tried it for 3 months, but it made a significant difference in my palate and the foods I liked. Like there was foods I just stopped liking, and it made me feel a lot better, and so I've been using it since, just buying it, not just for myself. But if you're interested in that, or just try it out for 3 months, see if it works.
My
if it doesn't
wife
work,
uses it too, but I think it's foo-foo dust. And
you can't have an opinion. You haven't tried it. You can't have an opinion. You haven't tried
you can totally have an opinion. You haven't tried things.
That's
might
fair.
not be quite as valid.
That's this podcast, I guess. We just talked about that.
That's right.
Just try it. If you try it for 3 months and it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But I would say give it a shot. It works good. So there's a link in the description if you want to do that. How was your week?
Good. Let's go back to the feedback.
You want to go to
Felt
feedback
like
first?
we were right in something there, and then you just had to do this. Do you feel pretty set on doing the show sponsor?
I had to do the show sponsor.
Okay,
So to get it out of the way. Okay, so you had some feedback. You said you got a lot of feedback yesterday.
Yeah, we had our church baptisms, which was beautiful.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
At Harrison Lake, and there was hundreds and hundreds of people there, and just a few close friends afterwards. The only people that watch this or listen to this that I've met, of course, are people that I know well, and I've told you before, multiple people said if they didn't know me, they wouldn't listen to it. Mm-hmm. And I get the same feedback all the time that I'm very reserved, and it's embarrassing actually, but they always say you're thinking before you're speaking, which is obviously not normal for me. So
something that apparently the Bible calls wise, but
yeah, so I've been doing it wrong for 40 years now, and it's probably time to change, and I should just have a mic on and a camera on all the time on me, and maybe probably a lot less would come out of my mouth, so that wouldn't be a bad thing. Most people would appreciate it.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of the feedback I got, and people like the broad range of topics, and I feel that I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, as do you, I think, and a lot of podcasts are, you're really pigeonholed, right? It's economics or it's
that's why I think I specifically did the chapters in this podcast for that reason. On YouTube, you can just pick the topic. If you think the topic's boring, you just pop to the next one.
Okay.
I do that all the time.
Okay, I don't watch anything on YouTube. Everything is on Apple Podcasts for myself.
Okay. But even on Apple Podcasts, you can see, or Spotify, you can see the description at what timestamp each subject starts. So you can jump ahead.
Okay. Anyways, I've never watched this podcast, so I don't know. But.
I haven't either.
Okay.
That's even the reels. Like, I don't approve any of the reels.
I watched the reels on the Hitchhikers.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty on point, so I shared it.
Yeah. I seen that. I thought it was cool. You shared it. No, I don't watch him. Brett makes them. He
does a great job.
He does a great job.
Guy's a genius.
Yeah. I really appreciate him. What is the date today? This is going to be this is recording Friday afternoon, the 23rd, and this is going to be publishing
in September. A long time from now. So
September 4th.
We didn't need to talk about that, but that's okay. Which actually, now that I talked about the baptisms, it's good that we did say that, because people that are listening are pretty tuned in and they're going to be like, that was 2 weeks ago, man.
Okay, so you got some more feedback? Is that the feedback? That was it?
That was about it. Yeah, reserved. They could tell that I knew who I was talking to, right? Mostly Dutch people, I think.
Am I reserved? I'm curious. I'm curious if people think I'm reserved. I don't think I'm that reserved, but...
No, that was actually some of the feedback, that you were definitely less reserved.
Than normal?
No, just than me.
Oh, okay. I feel like in public I'm more reserved. Like at church I'm pretty reserved.
Yeah, you
just stick to myself.
Yeah, pretty awkward.
Yeah, don't like that place. I mean,
just don't feel comfortable there.
Don't feel comfortable at churches. No. There's actually so many people that have that. I was actually had a guy over this morning and talking to him. Hasn't been to church in a long time. He's a Christian. And just like the place is just so uncomfortable because he goes, it's just all pretending that everyone has their crap together. Now, I know there's lots to be said about that, but there is still something. There's an element of that, right?
I'm desperately trying to break the stigma.
You're doing a good job.
I act as demented as I can on Sunday morning. No, I just feel like, be real. Even in the lobby, in the same. Yeah. I mean, we pray after at our church. You can get prayer after church.
Yeah.
I wish we would normalize it.
Yeah, I don't dare do it. The amount of times I've sat in church. You don't dare do it? No.
Well, the next time you're there and I see him, I mean, I'll go grab you right out of your pew and we'll go up there together. I'm dead serious. I mean, it's really important. Think of all the people that are holding back and not getting the benefit, right? We do pray at our elders meetings for people before.
I've done that.
I've done that less.
I've done that before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I realize, right? I realize it is a big production on Sunday morning. And
I guess my insecurity more around it is not that people like, I would say a lot of people would be like, yeah, Kyle definitely needs prayer. But it's more that like, I don't want to draw attention to myself. Now, that's probably pride or something else like that. But
I agree with that. And I do struggle with the fact that we do it right at the front and it's very public. It would be nice if there was some way to do it at the back. I don't know if there is. I haven't
walk to the back.
I'll bring it up. Pardon?
They just need to walk to the back, stand in the back, not in the front.
Yeah, I think that would be better, don't you think?
Yeah, okay. Then I would go.
Okay, I'll bring that forward at the next meeting. I would agree with you. I feel like it is very public right at the very front. I don't think it should matter, but of course it does. People are insecure by nature, most are, right? So that sentiment has been echoed by many, and it's definitely been thought in my heart. So I have went forward myself there again to normalize it, but I do feel like it takes people that are comfortable just saying what's really going on in their life to lead by example. And so, yeah, if we're doing that at church, hopefully people can feel like it's not a full of focus.
I love it. It's part of that's something I talk about in my coaching a lot. It's just like, just be honest with where things are at.
Wherever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, you can't change the truth. Just but you knowing about it.
When you live in denial, you feel like you are, which is why most people live there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I still go there lots too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good segment into Proverb of the Week. The Proverb of the Week is I use this for you guys that you haven't been following along maybe, but the 1 year Bible plan. So it's 365 readings, gives me Old Testament piece, New Testament piece, one Psalm, and one Proverb. So every week we grab one Proverb that I think is interesting. We chat about it. Today is, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. Mockers are proud and haughty. They act with boundless arrogance. And I was like, I'm on a podcast. I should watch my tongue, keep my mouth shut, and stay out of trouble. Think before you speak, maybe.
Can you read it one more time from front to back?
Yeah. Okay, and it's if you guys want to go find it, it's Proverbs 21, 23, and 24, and I'm reading in the New Living Translation. Very bad of me. Watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. Mockers are proud and haughty. They act with boundless arrogance. I think there's like two proverbs there, so I'm just going to talk with the one. First one.
About the mockers or about keeping your mouth shut?
I think they kind of tie into each other, right?
Yeah, they definitely do in our house.
Yeah, I think there's something we said. Usually when I say less, I'm less likely to get in trouble. I was never on that end of the spectrum, but
I find it really interesting. Often when I go, I'm on the school board as well at our kids' school. And just in general at meetings, I'll often think before I go, and I've talked to Marie about it, I'm like, oh, I should really say less, like, you know, and you and I have talked about this, about those guys or women that'll just be like sitting the whole meeting and then, you know, drop a real gem right at the end, right? And that's obviously not me. And I'm like, oh, I'd like to be that. And I do think there's some truth to that. So I have prayed that I would be that way more in meetings, but also you do need people that aren't afraid to just speak truth, get discussion started, throw ideas out there. So it's, you know, you still gotta live in your own personality. I would argue there's not every last person's supposed to be just a very quiet person, right?
Definitely not. I would say there's a lot of quiet people that are probably not.
That would be.
Should be saying things they're not saying. I would say there's probably way more people that fall into that camp. Or maybe, I don't know, how do you measure that? But there's a lot of people that just don't say anything that definitely should speak up, that have good things to say, or just like, I don't know.
Aren't being bold enough in some way in their life.
Yeah, because they're scared.
Scared.
Yeah.
Most people are ruled by fear.
Yeah.
Most people.
I mean, yeah. No honesty.
Okay. Anyways, great proverb.
Yeah. Fruit of the Spirit, just going through all the different fruits of the Spirit, that what the Bible says are evidences that you're a Christian. Next one is kindness.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it's pretty simple. Just be kind. Don't hurt people intentionally.
But yet speak truth. Truth.
I think you can speak truth in a good way. I was thinking about this. You know, like there's a lot of people, I think there's a lot of Christians out there that are, I don't know, I guess jaded by society and like the lack of truth. So that like we just have to like go hard on truth. And I would very much agree with that. But I think truth is most accepted when people know that you actually care about them. And so
that's the old saying, right? Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And a lot of Christians are not known for how well they care. Now that, and I do take offense to that a little bit because, you know, and it's been talked about a lot, even in our church, but I mean, the bulk of the people doing the charity work and doing a lot of amazing things are Christians, right? So, you know, yeah, we do get a bad rap because, you know, Christians are also vocal and obviously sometimes.
No, but I would argue that, like, so I think you've had a big impact in my life and just living more healthy. I think some of the reasons you could speak directly to me because I knew you cared versus other people in my life that would have said the same words and I would be like,
just not take it the same way.
No, just knock you out.
Yeah. How did I show that I was kind?
I think you were real yourself. You didn't hide your own failures. And didn't pretend to be something
that I'm not. No.
I mean, I think sometimes you did, but
probably still am. I'll work on that.
Kindness. What about you? Who's the kindest person you know? I wouldn't know. It's not something that really, I think we look up to. It's just not like man, I'm trying really hard to become a kind person. Like I don't hear very many people like, I want to be strong. People are like, I want to be a strong person, honest person. So that kind is not something that I think people think about a lot.
Pastor Ron Van Acker is very kind.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a very caring person. So is Curtis. He's the associate pastor at our church. He's community pastor, whatever the title is. He is very caring, very kind. Those two guys, and I mean Ron in particular is a good leader. He's very good at showing people how well he cares, right? Which is something that, you know, for me, it's always, I'm very goal oriented.
But you can have people that care, they don't say that much. They can't communicate it.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Pastor Ron does. Most people he interacts with know that he's a very caring and very kind person. Very supportive, very encouraging. And the world needs more encouragement. There's enough people ready to dump on you 100 times a day. It's pretty awesome.
I was actually thinking about that on the news. Like the news talks about only what's bad. And churches do this a lot too, in my opinion. We talk about what we don't believe and what we don't like and what's wrong about what we see. But we don't talk very much about what is good, what we should be doing, you know, like
what that looks like practically in the positive sense rather than
the negative sense like that. And what you focus on grows. If you're only talking about the negatives, you're just like, you're going to have aimless people. You're just going to have really critical people that are also looking around and saying what everyone else is doing. It's just like, no, let's focus on what we should be doing. Think about that. Side note. Okay. I think there was one other thing. You got anything?
Did you have more questions?
Oh yeah, I could do some questions. Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to talk about the Olympics.
Okay, talk about the Olympics.
Well, I just want to talk about how much of a waste of money it is. It drives me crazy, man. It's over. Nobody cares what I think about the Olympics, but
on that note, I had an idea for a new segment in here.
Yeah.
And that's we read the Dave Ramsey's book together, one chapter a week, and we talk about that. And we talk about how to like financially. You do like a little 3-4 minute segment.
He's too polarizing. I totally agree with 90% of what he teaches, but I mean, people totally write him off.
People can do whatever they want. Who cares?
They don't have to read along.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
I think it'll be interesting because I'm starting to read it now. So
he's going to come back in favor. Like people, like there's going to be a whole generation at some point. Maybe not yet. We'll probably do one more cycle of printing money here, and the government will slam the rate. The government will, Bank Canada will slam the rates down to the floor, and everybody will get a new lease on life. But at some point, we're going to have a harsh day of reckoning, where there will have to be austerity for a long time. That's why I don't like the Olympics, right? It's just like it's all borrowed money, and it's all justified because it's the Olympics, and because this is just what we do. And like everybody that borrows money like crazy and spends more than they make always have a justification for it, right? And so, yeah, Dave Ramsey's whole ideology is
Dave Ramsey against house debt as well?
He is about the most you would do is you'd have 25% down, and your mortgage would be over 15 years, I think, at the most.
Okay, yeah.
That would be his
and
model.
a certain percentage to your income or something. He does
measures
to, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that banks do that too. It's just they find all kinds of loopholes and ways to make it stretch yourself tighter. And people are always, and we've lived in an era, a time frame in the last 30 years. I've said this before, 40 years now, basically since 1984. Where, I mean, the 90s was pretty bad and it was plateaued, but like basically since 2002, my whole adult life, if you borrowed as much money as humanly possible and bought much land or housing or whatever as you could, you would just come out looking like a rock star. Yeah. And that is over now. Like people are starting to realize that things need to cash flow. And I think I've told you before, I do like a little bit of, private stuff with lending and stuff with other guys. And it's like that space, you're starting to see the cracks. You're starting to see foreclosures, like especially on the commercial side, where anything that was speculative with dirt that's eventually going to have an apartment or a townhouse complex or a development on, and it's like, whoa, buckle up. But
okay.
Yeah. Where were you going with that, Dave Ramsey? Yeah.
Well, the book thing, I think that's something good to talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's relevant. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that are in financial.
I was going to bring the book with me. I'm reading all the time. And I did think I had a few other books that I wanted to plug to on here. But the one I'm reading right now I think it's called The Greatest Goal. It's by Paul Henderson, who scored the goal in the 1972 Summit Series between Russia and Canada. And anyways, I don't know if we can drop a link in here for the book, but it's a great book. Maria and I go to a marriage conference every year, and he's one of the speakers there. Him and his wife are a solid Christian couple.
Why do you like the book? Why is it worth reading?
Well, you have to probably like sports to some extent. So if you're not a hockey guy at all, like, I'm about halfway through the book, and a lot of it is about his career playing hockey. And so anybody that enjoys hockey would really enjoy it. But yeah, he's a pro-marriage guy, and he's used his fame to further the kingdom, which is beautiful. I mean, and he was at a marriage retreat conference we were at last fall, and he gave the book to everybody that was there. There's probably like 70 or 80 people there. He gave the book to all of us, so I'm finally reading it. And he was a big proponent of private education, like Christian schools, which is interesting. Like he was over the top that our kids were going, which I found interesting because obviously, some people believe very strongly that's important. Other people think you shouldn't have your kid in any school, and other people think it doesn't matter at all. You send them anywhere. It's a very divisive thing, apparently. To me, whatever. I can understand all the angles, so I wouldn't have that strong of a stance. But he really went on that, and then he's just a big pro-marriage guy. Fight for your marriage, stick it out. He's been married to his wife Eleanor for probably 50 or 60. He's a pretty old guy, right? I mean, he was in his 20s and late 20s, early 30s, and 72. So I don't know how old that would put him, but
it's funny, eh? Like back then, after he scored that goal, everyone would have known who that guy is, and that guy had no idea who he was.
Most young people now wouldn't know, but I mean, anybody like we as kids, I don't know if it's just because of the way our family was, but we knew a lot about world, and it was the Cold War era, right? It was a big deal. they were still under the Iron Curtain, and so it was a pretty big deal for Canada to go there and play.
Yeah.
They did the first 4 games here, and then they did the second 4 games there.
Okay.
There was a CBC documentary on it, and we watched it as kids.
Okay.
So I found it
And the
fascinating.
only thing I watched as a kid was Lion King. We had one DVD.
One DVD at your house?
No, it was an DVD VHS.
Okay. We did not have a TV either, obviously, because that was forbidden. But I had a couple friends that we went to their
Throw
house.
it out the window.
Throw it out the window. The internet really screwed that up, because now the TV's in everybody's hand.
It's in her phone, in her hands,
Yeah.
Okay, question from Steve. How to talk to your family parents about going to a different church? So I'm assuming if you've left the church that you grew up in.
Oh, it's so tough, man. It's so tough.
How to talk to your parents about it?
Yeah. I always feel like there's so many conflicting things going on. I mean, obviously you need to be doing what you feel called to do, what you feel God's calling you to do. So that's the most important thing. So that trumps everything else, while still, honoring your father and your mother. And how does that look, right? And I guess on the flip side, the parent who's in the spot where they maybe feel like their kids, hey, what are you doing going to this church, or this isn't what we taught you. They need to not provoke their child to wrath, because there's a verse about that, and they need to be gracious and loving and still protect the relationship.
Is it worth losing a relationship over?
I don't think most people lose a relationship over.
I think there's a lot of people that do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, how great is your relationship if it's only there because, you're going to the right church? And I mean, I have these conversations with people all the time, right? And on the flip side, I mean, I spoke to one side there. The other side, it's like, if you feel like you can't be candid with your family, about your faith, then what kind of relationship do you have with your parents, and what kind of parents do you have? And maybe they just need a talk. I think that you could even bring other people in. Like, I would encourage, especially in a lot of our circles, it's like, bring someone else in, bring somebody that somebody respects, or a neutral person. And, because parents use the intimidation tactic. And like you say, they would use the thing where, all of a sudden, family Sunday lunch looks different because now this guy came from some other church. And
Yeah.
I mean, my parents in particular, it's interesting because my trajectory has been such, like when I was, kicked out of the house when I was punk, I basically quit going to my parents' church, went to a church that was very different. And my parents, as much as obviously they had concerns, they have been very gracious. I mean, there was definitely testy times, probably more with my father, but yeah, my parents have always been about, hey, where are you at in your faith with God? That's what matters. And they have always been supportive, especially now that we're married. I've said that before. They've always been.
Yeah, I would say, like, if there's any parents listening, like, what's your motivation? Like, is it because you care that much about your child's soul, and that their walk with God is going to go way off, or is it how much of it is image?
Like, or what do my friends think now?
Yeah,
that
my
my
friends
kids going to this church.
Yeah,
or,
and dealing with all of that, and just.
Yeah.
I think
and the other thing is that most of these people have done zero actual due diligence or homework or listening to sermon on the other plate. They only know that their comfort level is where they're at, and their faith is not in God. Their faith is in the church that they go to on Sunday, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the hard word for the parent that's maybe wondering. I think that also kids still need to be gracious, though, right, and realize that. I don't know. I'm probably giving the.
But
if
you come from thinking the idea that you're likely the best one, and
that's a wild spot to start, eh?
Yeah, and also that everyone around you has almost identical beliefs. There's very little difference in the community that you're in. Then anything other than what is an attack on what right? Because that must mean that you're wrong.
Hey, how would people in that culture, and even where we grew up, how would they take the verse like iron sharpens iron? Would they not see the value of a bit of diversity of beliefs, or a bit of interpreting the scripture differently? Or is it just huge comfort in, hey, we all beat the drum the same way, and anybody that doesn't is wrong? Is that basically how they're thinking? Or
I don't think any of that's crossing their mind.
They're just box checking, doing the same
thing. This is what we've done.
This is what we've done. This is what my parents did. It was good enough for them. I've had people say that exact line to me.
Yeah.
It was good enough for my forefathers. It's good enough for me. I'm like, whoa.
And if you stay in that spot, like I think it's way easier to stay in a church than it is to leave a church, because you don't get asked any questions if you're staying. like you're comfortable, right? Like there's no pushback, there's no pressure on you, and so it's much more comfortable to stay, especially because it's going to like hurt relationships, and it's going to like people are going to look at you differently and all this stuff like that. At least in my experience, it's not.
There's two sides of that coin though, where a lot of people just flippantly leave the minute they disagree with one thing.
Yeah, that's not good either. I don't like that.
So that there again. As
actually,
with all
when
things,
I was 21,
road.
actually, I got I was around, I think 21 when I got saved. I actually really don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was only last year. I don't know. Whatever. Still act pretty unsaved.
Do you think you have to know exactly when you're saved?
No. My dad always said, doesn't matter when the sun comes up, is the sun up.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's, when going back to what I said earlier, when everyone thinks the same, no one thinks at all. And so then if there's just, and I'm not saying that's an absolute statement. That's in every community.
I know.
In every community, they
do it in their own way.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, the problem is if you do start to question, and this is why people don't, because the minute you crack open the door, it typically opens pretty far, in all ways, in bad ways and good ways, right?
Yeah, but also questions. People don't like questions because then you have to lose control, right? Like talk about free speech. Why does the government hate questions? Why do politicians hate questions? They don't like accountability. They don't like things to be out in the open and stuff like that. So if you're someone that's in leadership of in a company, I think in politics and stuff like that, if you're resisting questions and people don't understand something and give them the time to explain, then you're, I think, trying to control. And then once you have control, and people just say, hey, these are the rules and stuff like that, don't just follow them, then people will do that. But I think openness is what allows for realness and actually progress. But it's like you can't. It's Animal Farm.
1984. I guess back to the church thing. I feel like I've had those awkward conversations. I've watched many other people do it. In a family in particular, it's typically one child that will break the ice, and then depending on what church denomination it is, depending on how well it'll go. My experience has been that if the parents are actual believers, then as a general rule, even if maybe in certain denominations not, because there are some that cling really tightly to the they're the rightest of all of them, right? Which is just, to me, is humorous. And having said that, it's not that you shouldn't be excited about the church you go to and believe that you're doing things the right way. It's just if you're that arrogant that you think you've nailed it on all doctrine, which many people literally talk that way, it just drives me crazy, right? And it's something that I've really appreciated at our church recently as I've just got to know more and more and more people. I mean, a lot of Dutch people there, so they think a lot the same way, but there's a lot of other people that are not, and there's a wide variety of views on end times and leadership styles and all those things. And some people even disagree with some of the things we do, but they're not willing to let that be, hey, this is a reason why I'm going to go nitpick and go try find some other church that's a little more aligned, with everything that my comfort level. And the humorous thing is, even in time, our comfort level changes, and if we're in the Word, it should be changing. And that's why I feel like even parents, as their kids are, first of all, they should just be excited that their children are seeking God and looking for, somewhere to worship where they can, be engaged and be under good leadership and whatever that looks like, right? And serving in a Christian community. But I just think that's not where we come from. And there is a lot of comfort, and it's not just Christians, it's everywhere, right? It wouldn't matter what faith you are in. Hey, we've got it. Why would you leave, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. That's a lot about control and a lot about, for the parent, the minute their kid's somewhere, like you say, they have to, can they save face amongst their friends? Hey, where are they going to church? And those are just, you wouldn't be digging through the Bible finding things that would match with that. You would find a lot of verses in the New Testament where Paul talks about, flexibility, lots of stuff about rules and regulations, right? So a lot of respect to parents that are gracious, but also there are some that are.
Yeah, but also I've also known lots of examples of, it blowing up because someone left, and then 5 years later, the relationship heals and they're still in separate places and they're fine about it. And so if you can just make that cycle shorter, and just forgive quicker and just, move on, the relationship is worth a lot. And, if they're not exactly lined up, ask them if they're willing to listen to you about it. because usually they're probably adults already, you know?
And that's the humorous part. It's back to what I said. They're not even having the discussion about why. It's always about just you're at the wrong one because you're not at ours, right? And that's somebody that hasn't done a lot of due diligence or a lot of digging into the scripture or digging into what these people are believing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a general rule,
and I understand that because it's scary because once you start digging into it, then what if you find out you're wrong? Then what?
Well, that's why they don't. I mean, it comes back to, that's why I said when you start asking the questions, watch out, right? And you see that really with certain topics that, we see it, right?
Well, I think that's why like technology has caused a lot of change in a lot of different areas is because people can educate themselves, right? Yeah. Like,
well, it's the same thing when the printing press came out. I mean, wasn't that why the Reformation happened?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like the church was like, whoa, don't be in the word.
Yeah.
We're really offside here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the commoner, the guy's out in the field reading his Bible, he's like, whoa.
Exactly.
What are we doing paying all this money to forgive our sins?
It's just nuts.
This is not the gospel.
Yep. True. Okay. I think that's it. We're at 33 minutes. We're going to go into overtime and answer some more questions. If you do want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/furiously-curious. You can support the show in different ways. 3 different dollar amounts there. I put it in USD, so if it's different than what I say, someone commented on that. It's $5 US, and someone said,
people need to know. That's actually something I want to talk about was the exchange rate.
Okay.
Because the US dollar's been dropping like crazy, and people don't realize how much it affects everything that we do. They don't affect that the whole world's basically based in US dollars, and so, yeah. Anyways, it's just interesting. It's good for people to know how bad the exchange rate is if they don't know. Most people do.
Well, it'll just show, and I say $5 if you log
it's
in.
Like something Canadian. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, you support the show. That'd be cool. I hope to do some more interviews. There's actually some really cool ones. I think I talked about it before, but Trey. Really want to get Trey on. He's the guy I did the psychedelics therapy with. I really want to do it in person, so I have to go see him. And so there's just, it takes a bunch of money to get these things going. And so if you want to support it, you can do it that way. If you do support it as well, though, you get free content. So there's me and Gary go a little bit more, I would say.
I know that nobody listens, so I just let loose a little more, right?
There we go. Okay.
Hey, thanks. Have a great week.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to listen to some overtime clips, I'm going to play a few right now, and you can kind of get an idea of what overtime's all about. And if you want to watch those, you can go to patreon.com/furiously curious and enjoy those. So this is what you would get with that. Take a look. We are in overtime.
My wife would be choked. I gave an answer on that. People do not like to be told anything about reproduction. Like it's a no-go zone, man. Especially from some dude that's like
two white dudes
that never
I've never had a kid. Oh, there's a guy that got arrested this week for what he posted on X in Chilliwack.
They're for sure Dutch, so they're cheap, so they're not listening to this. So we're good.
Yeah. Okay, if you enjoyed those, again, patreon.com/furiously curious. $5 a month. And we started these in episode 4 already, so you can go back and watch all the different overtime episodes if you're interested in that. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Please like the videos, subscribe to the channel, rate the show on the different podcast apps so that you can do that on. Goes a long way. Leave a comment on social media. Send some feedback via the website, furiouslycurious.co, in the contact form there. Also, if you have questions or topics you think we should talk about, feel free to shoot me a message there. That's going to be you can send messages anonymously if you want. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.